We will listen to another artist, a story of another artist, a children's book. Also has won an award. This one won the Caldecott Award. So I would like you to listen with the idea of how can we use this to share anti-bias education ideas with children, the idea of identity, diversity, justice, activism, social justice and activism. They don't have to do all four, but if a book does, I would love it if you pointed it out. And also, like, what was this artist process? How, if you were doing this artist and creating an investigation for this artist, what ideas do you get from this book? And if you have any ideas for activities, I would want you to be thinking about that too. So this book is about Vasya Kadinsky, and I still haven't figured out. I think it's a boy. And I have not read, I read it, like skimmed it, but I just got it. So some of my reactions may be off the cuff. This is called The Noisy Paint Box. And it was written and illustrated by Barb Rosenstock and Mary Grandpré. And it says the colors and sounds of Kandinsky's abstract art, The Noisy Paint Box. I think using abstract art teaching about it is pretty hard, but what's interesting is it's not necessarily, it might be an interesting way to introduce children to the idea that it doesn't have to be something or look like what they think it should look like, right? These end papers show just some brush strokes, I think, maybe some shapes. As you look longer, you can kind of identify different things, but there's nothing specific that I see. And then the inside, the title page has the paint and the colors, and brushes, all different size brushes. It so Mary's the illustrator and Barb is the writer. And it's written to Mr. Paul Worth, the best teacher ever. Thank you wherever you are, and for all young artists who look and listen with brave hearts. So Vasya Kandinsky spent his days learning to be a proper Russian boy. He studied bookfuls of math, science, and history. He practiced piano scales to the marching click of the metronome. That is really hard. I did take lessons for years, and I did not like using the metronome. He sat stiff and straight at dressed up dinners while the grown-ups talked and talked and talked. Even he can roll his eyes. I do not want to eat that. I'm just saying. And then it's interesting if you see this, it almost looks like a collage. It has like newsprint making up the people, and they're just talking at him, like in words. So Vasquez's well-off world was perfectly polite until the day his aunt gave him a small wooden paint box. It's kind of interesting that Horace won his paint box through a contest, but his aunt bought him this as a gift. Every proper Russian boy should appreciate art, said Auntie. She showed Vasya the correct way to mix colors on the paint box palette. It's kind of interesting to look at the art behind them. Very much like, before, like instead of photography, these are like portraits. Now, when you'll start to see something here that Vasya does that probably most of us don't do. And it looks like when he paints, it's hissing. Hmm. Vasya mixed red with yellow, and then he mixed red with blue. And as the colors changed, Vasya heard a whisper, a louder, and then a louder still. What's that sound? Asked Vasya. I don't hear a thing, said Auntie. Vasya listened as his brush stirred and swished, and the swirling colors trilled like an orchestra tuning up for a magical symphony. And then you can see as he's painting here all these music notes and composition things as if you're reading music and colors. It looks like a trumpet kind of, all while he's painting. Mama, Papa, called Vasya. What a noisy paint box. Silly Vasya. Vasily. said Papa. Stop being foolish, said Mama. So they don't hear the pain. Vasya hears the pain. I wonder if that's a thing. Because before I read this book, I didn't think it was. Vasya painted the sound of colors. He spun a bright lemon circle onto the canvas. It clinked like the highest notes on the keyboard. He brushed a powerful navy rectangle that vibrated deeply like the lowest cello strings. And he tossed up jagged swashes of blaring crimson and added cheerful dots of burbling green, clanging orange, and tinkling violet. Vasya painted and painted until the colors went quiet. Look what I made, shouted Vasya. Is it a house? Asked Auntie. Is it a flower? Said Mama. What's it supposed to be? This is what my daughter was asking me when I was painting the other day. It's music, said Vasya, waltzing his painting around the house. Calm down, said Mama. Do some math, said Papa. Heavens, said Auntie, the boy needs a proper art class. So Vasya went to art class and learned to draw houses and flowers just like everyone else. Boring. As the years passed, Vasya finished school and studied to be a lawyer. He ignored his noisy paint box and lived the way people expected. Boo. But Vasya couldn't ignore the sounds of the colors singing to him in the streets of Moscow. The canary-colored mailbox whistling as he rode to work, the scarlet sunset haze ringing above the ancient Kremlin walls, an ivory chorus of snowflakes scattered on the sable collar on his overcoat. One evening, suitably steamed and starched, Vasya attended the opera. And as the orchestra's music crashed around him, the colors of the noisy paint box twirled wildly in his mind, stomping lines of vermilion and coral, caroling triangles in pistachio and garnet, thundering arches of aqua and ebony with shrill points of cobalt and saffron. Vasya heard the colors singing. Vasya saw the music dancing. And Vasya was never quite as proper again. He quit his job teaching law. Good for him. Moved from Moscow to Munich to be a painter. He studied with his famous teacher, then that one. Is it a house? Is it a flower? What is it supposed to be? His teacher asked. Vasya wanted to paint the colors he heard, but maybe the famous teachers knew best. Once again, Vasya put houses and flowers, animals and people in his paintings just like everyone expected. The teachers were happy, Vasya was not. I wonder if pre-K children feel that way when we tell them that, well, what is it? Is that a flower? Is that a zebra? Is that a horse, a dog? His artist friends understood. They too were tired of painting pretty landscapes and pretty ladies. They thought art needed to change. Art should make you feel, Vasya told them, like music. Exactly, said his friends, but none of them knew how to paint feelings until the day Vasya grew brave enough and invited the world to see the paintings roaring from his noisy paint box. Rattle, whistle, bash, zip, murmur, clang. Hmm. Snapping cerulean points, crunching crimson squares, whispering charcoal lines. Vasya named these paintings after the music he loved. Improvisation, composition, accompaniment, fugue, movement, and simply three sounds. With his noise paint box, Vasya Kandinsky created something entirely new, abstract art. It took a long time for people to understand, is it a house? Is it a flower? What's it supposed to be? It's my art, Vasya answered. How does it make you feel? Well, isn't that a great question to ask a child? There is something in here I want you to know. Well, first of all, here's some of his created creations, right? There we are, indeed abstract. But he did have a condition. Where did I see that? Let's see. Kadinsky was born in Moscow, Russia on December 4th. His father was also named Vasily. He was a wealthy tea merchant, and his mother, Lydia, was a noblewoman with a passion for music. Okay. So he has quite a bit of privilege. He's got some wealth going on here. When he was 5, his parents divorced. That's a little young. I mean, that's a little early in the world to have divorced parents. Um, and Vasya lived with his aunt, apparently, because they were divorced. Wow. He attended law school. Also, you don't get to attend law school unless you got some privilege. This book is historical fiction, so the dialogue is imagined, although the events are true. In his writings, Kandinsky describes hearing a hissing sound as a child when he mixed colors in the paint box his aunt gave him. He continued experiencing colors as sounds and sounds as colors throughout his life. It's thought that Kandinsky probably had a harmless genetic condition, and I did not know this, called synesthesia. Synesthesia. Although accurate tests to detect it weren't invented at that time, there weren't tests to detect it. In people with synesthesia, one sense triggers a different sense, allowing them, for example, to hear colors, see music, taste words, or smell numbers. Scientists believe those with synesthesia may have more pathways between the sense areas in the brain, or that their sense communicate in ways other people's do not. There are at least 60 different types of synesthesia, and it's estimated to could occur in 1 out of every 5,000 individuals. And isn't it weird that we haven't heard about it? Anyway, I think this is an interesting way to also, even though I don't think all of us are walking around with synesthesia, to talk about just opening the idea of, well, how does that make you feel when you see red? What do you hear? And I think we could connect, painting to music, paint like Star Wars is like a song for dun 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 dun, dun, right? Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about synesthesia because I'd never heard of it. It says, I let myself go. I had little thought for houses and trees, drawing colored lines and blobs on the canvas with my palette knife, making them sing just as powerfully as I knew how. And that's must be when he decided I'm going to do this abstract thing and not what these people tell me to do. And then on the back, there's two more quotes. I could hear the hiss of the colors as they mingled. And then I saw all the colors in my mind. They stood before my eyes. Wild, almost crazy lines were sketched in front of me. So I think this is a great book to talk about colors, to talk about them in different ways. Um, and honestly, one of the ideas with diversity and identity is he could have this synesthesia. Um, not That's not often what I mean when I talk about identity or whatever, but those different abilities are just as much what makes our intersectionality, our identities, the things that make us who we are. All right, thank you.